Hello and a warm welcome to everyone to this edition of the program People, Politics and Power, where we, of course, delve into the critical intersection of governance, civic rights, and leadership in Nigeria. I am Imonia Marere. Well, in this episode, we turn our attention and spotlight on one of the most consequential figures in Nigeria's recent political history, Muhammadu Buhari, a man of paradoxes who died on Sunday at the age of 82, just a little over 2 years after leaving office as president. Buhari's political journey spans military authoritarianism and civilian democracy. From his rise to power as a military ruler in 1983, following a coup against a democratically elected government, to his return as a civilian president in 2015, Buhari's name evokes strong sentiments across the political spectrum. We shall take a sober look at the politics of Buhari, his ideology, leadership style, policies, and promises. What kind of governance did he offer? How did he navigate the complex terrain of Nigeria's religious and ethnic divisions? Did he fulfill the hopes of a nation that longed for a change? Just as crucial is the record of his administration on human rights and civil liberties. Critics and observers have raised questions about press freedom, the handling of protests such as the End SARS protests, the treatment of dissent, and the rule of law under his watch. Supporters, on the other hand, point to his anti-corruption stance and efforts to restore order in the troubled regions. So we ask, did Muhammadu Buhari's presidency expand or restrict civil space in Nigeria? How do we reconcile his anti-corruption campaigns with allegations of selective justice? And what legacy did he leave behind on the human rights front? Now join us as we unpack the politics and human rights record of Muhammadu Buhari, a story of power, principle, controversy, and consequence. Well, let's begin by hearing some of the tributes that have been paid to him in the last 24 hours or even less than that since his passage.
Muhammadu is that he tried his best. My prayer is that God will forgive him of his inadequacies and accept him into his kingdom. It's a loss to the nation because at a time like this, we need the totality of the experience and what I may call statesmanship of all those who have had the opportunity to run the affairs of this country in the past to get us out of the situation we are in. He will be sorely missed, and may his soul rest in perfect peace.
At a personal level, I know him to be an upright man, a conscientious person who lived with principles and, doctrine strictly in adherence to our religion and with an abiding faith to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We thank God that he had been able to sustain that also.
During the military era, was a disciplined man, a straightforward man, a man with integrity. And that was why the Nigerians elected him to hold the affairs of Nigeria. But saying the truth, we didn't see that actual representative of him during his military era in him. So at the point we were even doubting whether it is still the Buhari we know or somebody else is handling the affairs of Nigeria?
He did his own lot as a president, and I must have to admit that this is a colossal loss to the country. We are in a very mourning mood right now as it stands. We are going to miss him, his legacies.
During his tenure as our president, he did his best. So to hear his death, honestly, I feel bad because he's a human being like me.
Well, as human being, we don't celebrate people's death because someday we are all going to die. And for that reason, irrespective of whatever the person has done, we don't have to jubilate that somebody died.
We as Nigerians, and indeed Africa, have lost a great patriot, a statesman, and a former president, two-time president of Nigeria. You know, so it's sudden anyway to lose such a should I say a VIP or a public figure.
It's very pathetic. We don't pray for our leaders to die. He was one of the leaders that God used to lead Nigeria, I think, as a military man, and then he came as a democratically elected president for Nigeria for 8 years. So it's a bad situation, just that I wish the family the grace to bear the shock, what just happened. And every Nigerian, we might not like all our leaders per se, because all of them have not performed to the standard that we want, but in one way or the other, they have played their part.
To every one of us here, that indeed there's a time and season for everything. And it's whatever legacy that you leave behind that will speak for you. Personally, he has done his bit, and he has gone to be with his Lord. Those of us living, we have the opportunity to live our life and to make things right.
In life, you can't please everybody. So I would say he has done his own job or his own part on earth. So he has gone to answer the call of nature. I also wish and also pray that God is in his infinite mercies will accept his soul and also give him a good rest.
When I heard about the death, it shocked me because I was surprised. But nothing we can do.
Buhari did, I mean, the little he can do when he was alive. And you know, this is life. It is normal that the moment somebody passes on, there are bound to be negative comments and a positive comments on that person. So what I would say that may so rest in peace.
Right, voices from the streets and indeed from Nigerians about the life and times of Muhammadu Buhari. Well, I'm joined in the studio now by two gentlemen, Mr. Babatunde Oluwajo. He is a human rights activist and an anti-corruption crusader, a board member of the Center for Transparency Advocacy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Also joining us is Mr. Victor Gewa. Mr. Gewa is a lawyer and an electoral reforms advocate. He is the national coordinator, advocate for people's rights and justice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin this way. How did you receive Buhari's demise?
Well, nobody will be happy about the death of anybody. When we got that, when I got the information, well, we received it with sadness because we expect to see him observe and see what is going on after he left power, to see whether, like he said, or that after he leaves, he's going to give us a successor, which is Tinubu. Let him give his opinion about how the country is going. But unfortunately, he left before the first term of his successor. So I felt very bad. So that is just at most what my feeling is.
Just 2 years after he left office, that's when he passed on. And we do recall that in his first term in office, he had health challenges and all of that. Could that have lingered until this time?
Well, it is very possible. I would say that when nobody celebrates anybody's death, but I would say that he lived a good life. his generation enjoyed the very best the country can offer. But it's a shame that their legacy is a legacy of disappointment for succeeding generation. From secondary school to the army, become military head of state, later became civilian president. They had all the best the country can offer. Himself and their generation, Obasanjo, IBB, all of them. They had the very best. But the question we want to ask ourselves is, did they bequeath onto the succeeding generation the same thing they enjoyed from Nigeria? This was a country that gave them the very best. That was why they could not japa during their own time. Because they had no reason to japa. People would go on during their time, they would go to Sandos, go everywhere. They would come back to Nigeria. Because Nigeria had the very best to offer them. The question is, what did they bequeath to us? May his soul rest in peace. He has gone to meet his maker. We will now ask him questions. The opportunities I gave you, what did you do with it? Did you leave your country better than you met it? Or you left it worse off? I'm not a judge, I'm not God. I too, a day will come when I'll stand before my maker. But I want to say, I wish him farewell, and I pray too that may God grant the family the fortitude to bear the loss. But if you ask me on the scale of balance, they enjoyed the very best, but they left us worse off.
Victor, let's focus on his politics and his human rights records. He veered off into partisan politics when he left as a military head of state. He contested 3 times for the presidency, 2003, 2007, and 2011. And it was only at the 4th trial in 2015 that he eventually achieved his dream of becoming president of Nigeria. What would you, or how would you describe his kind of politics?
Well, thank you very much. You see, why it is the normal African tradition of not critiquing a dead, somebody who passed on, and it is normal. Even a lot of persons, poets have said that you don't talk bad about the hill. But in looking at the profile, the politics of President Buhari, when President Buhari contested and won the election in 2015, I had high hopes. And what were the reasons? Because it was sold to us. It was marketed to us. The campaign to us was that, to Nigerians, was that, oh, we are going to get somebody, first of all, that was the background of this insecurity in the Northeast. Oh, we are going to be having a general who has the skill, who can take up insecurity in the Northeast. Nigeria will be safe under him as a general. We were also told that Nigeria was going to be, the issue of corruption would be brought down low, that it's going to be short. I think his first, one of his very popular comments was, if you don't kill corruption, corruption was going to kill you. And so, in terms of human rights, well, we were not expecting much because he has a history of very poor human rights. So the expectation was high. Nigerians were very, apart from some very few people who looked at his human rights record to say, well, this person, military man, military background, we've not seen anything democratic about him. But when he took over the realms of affairs in 2015, in the first term of Buhari, talking about his human rights record, 27,000 deaths were recorded under Buhari in his first term of office. As a matter of fact, a particular newspaper, Humble Media, says that the death rate during the first term of Buhari amounted to 22 deaths per day. So under President Buhari's administration, it was as good as having 22 people dying every day. So for his first time, we have 27,000 deaths. And at the end of his 2 term of 8 years, the total amount of deaths that were recorded was 67,133.
Were these deaths as a result of human rights violations?
Terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, all forms of military actions and within the Northeast and all of that. So this insecurity. Nigerians were killed. The fundamental right of any human being is the right to life under Section 33 of the chapter 5 of the Constitution. That's the first human right we have, right to life. But Nigerians' right to life were reduced by bandits, criminal elements, kidnappers, assassins, even including the security agencies. We saw cases where, of course, you see the NSAS movement, where the military had to confront armless Nigerians during the Buhari administration. So in terms of the record, human rights record, Buhari had one of the worst in the history of Nigeria, apart from the military era. So in terms of human rights, Buhari did below poor. I mean, I don't know what is beyond poor. It did worse. His record was very, very bad. And I mean, the records are there to speak for itself.
Tunde? Yes, I'm posing that same question to you. I mean,
okay.
First, let's look at his politics. What kind of politician was he? From the moment he stepped into the political arena after his military career. I mean, some people will also argue that even as military head of state, he was into politics, one or the other. I mean, rulership and leadership is all about politics. So let's look at that whole gamut.
Well, I would say that given the illusion that was created, and then I was still a young man when he was a military head of state, the opinions are divided. You know, with Tunde Diagman's 2IC, Nigeria was in a very terrible situation when, as a military leader, he came in. And outside the military excesses, they were able to rein in some of the excesses of our people. For example, although fellas say my people are indisciplined, the Nigerian government, but they did some, I would say that they did their best as military leaders. For example, I grew up in Lagos.
They introduced the war against indiscipline.
Indiscipline. And for the first time, Nigerians became a bit well-mannered. People were terribly unruly. Lagos was terrible. Are you getting me? I mean, they did their best. They had excesses, but they did some positives. So there was a carryover effect for people of my own generation and people who grew up under that milieu. That, okay. And that was why it was not accidental they call him Megascare. That's an honest man. But unfortunately, Buhari did not live up to that reputation. For the first 6 months of his coming to power in 2015, even the civil servants, the criminal civil servants, everybody sat up that they thought there's a new sheriff in town. But after 6 months, they saw nothing. Nothing has changed. So everybody went back to business as usual.
They read his body language?
Not just his body language, his lack of action. What they were expecting that would happen never happened. What they were expecting, what Nigerians were expecting is that we will see a lot of criminal elements. If they are not in jail, at least we will ensure they don't enjoy the process of crime. But right from his own inner cabinet, the stench started coming out. And it was a major disappointment. Then, if you know again, Buhari was a man who quelled the Maitasini riots in the 80s. So without giving that record, Nigerians expected that he's coming to power. The issue of banditry, Boko Haram, just name it, we will be able to nip it in the bud. But what did we have? My brother quoted statistics. Other things went from bad to worse. So I would say that in terms of politics and in terms of the high hopes people had in him coming back as a civilian president, it was a total failure. And then to make it worse, because there's what they call enlightened self-interest. People expected that, given the fact that it's from that particular region where we have this banditry and all the rest, that it will at least out of enlightened self-interest be able to rein in these guys. Because if you remember at the point under Obasanjo, Boko Haram nominated him as their negotiator. They negotiated Buhari. They nominated him as a negotiator with the federal government of Nigeria. So people thought that, okay, if these people have this respect for you, that they could negotiate between them and the federal government of Nigeria, that if you become president, you can be able to tell them that enough is enough. There's a new sheriff in town. But unfortunately, that was never realized. I understand people, some people say, politics, the dynamics of politics is different from military rule. I know, but if you are the leader of a party, because that's what the presidents are, every president is called the leader of the party. Now you'll be able to call your people and say, come, this and this are my minimum, the minimum I expect from you guys. So everybody go back to your constituency, call this your voice, because whether you like it or not, our politicians are in touch with the same elements. They're in touch with them. Otherwise, okay, tell me how you'll be harvesting gold in my own state as a governor. And if there is no collusion, you think you can do it successfully, no matter the arms you have. Have you not heard of stories of aeroplane landing in the night, helicopters supplying different logistics to the same group? Buhari had an opportunity to change the paradigm, to change the story. But it is quite of, and again, ask yourself, our own president, former military president, 8 years civilian president, died in London. So that means they could not build what class hospital. As terrible as Abacha was, he built the national hospital out of a license of interest because then it was a pariah, he could not go anywhere for medical treatment. Imagine if every one of them from 1999 who has been a leader decided, okay, because of me, I have this ailment, I'm going to build a world-class hospital to at least to attend to my needs. Our president, military, 8 years civilian, he died in London. They could not build one, even if it is in his village, Dawala, there's going to be what they call a collateral benefit to other people, to other Nigerians who may have similar ailments. Okay, does that not speak for itself? Is that not a shame?
Well, you recall that in 1983, when he came into power as a military head of state, was when the politicians of the Second Republic were put on trial and were sent to jail terms of different degrees and all of that. The expectation was that he would carry that tradition over to in his anti-corruption crusade in 2015 when he was elected president, a civilian president, democratically elected president of Nigeria. Would you say it's possibly because he found himself in a different environment, a different space from what he was as military president and what he became as an elected, democratically elected president? Could that be responsible for why he possibly could not carry his anti-corruption crusade as far as everyone expects?
No, I don't think so. Like they say, power does not change you, power reflects you. So when you're in power and you see people acting when they're in power, it is not that it's power that changed them. The power just brought out what they are. Now, talking about Buhari politics, when Buhari came into power in 2015, if you remember, the first 6 months, there was no cabinet. Did you remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so we were thinking that, oh, a lot of people were like, oh, he's consulting. Oh, haven't tried for three terms. He's used to the system, so he wants to get the best brain. So we waited for 6 months. And people were saying, no, let's forgive him. He wants to come with the best team. Oh, he has said the economy will be good, so let's be patient with him. While we were patient with him within the next 6 months, the economy was on the standstill. It was on the self-autopilot. So we waited. We wanted, actually, people were thinking that, oh, some people were peddling the fact that we are going to see new people with new ideas. This man, he knows that these politicians, they were corrupt, so he's going to get people with brilliant ideas, people who have not put their hands in the till. Great. So when we came out with these cabinet members, we were like, these are the same people, CPC, APC, AD. So there was no difference. So we were also thinking that, oh, when Buhari comes, we will look at the major issue, corruption. Like you said, I remember I was in this your station when he said that, oh, that he's going to take all head-on corruption, the system, Nigeria will be back again, we redeem the image of corruption, that people, and I remember coming here, I think it was one of these, I said, people who have stolen, I think he said people should come out with their loot, that people should come out, to bring back whatever they have looted, they should. So I even said that some people should just start moving on their own. They should just move straight to Kuje, because, like he said, a new sheriff is in town. That people who have stolen should just don't waste their time to face trial. People should choose the nearest prison and put it, around them. They should just walk because of Buhari is in town. But what did we see? Ministry of Humanitarian, over 11 billion was wasted. We saw the worst of corruption. As we are talking to you today, a lot of the ministers are still standing trial, on corruption charges. As we are talking to you today, the means and this thing that was conducted by CBN.
The Ways and Means.
The Ways and Means. Over 1 trillion naira was mismanaged. That till now, this National Assembly is talking about investigating the Ways and Means under President Buhari's administration. So at the point we even thought, we were told that Buhari has two images. That there is the live Buhari, there is the imitated. Because we never knew who was in control. Because Buhari now there was an impression that, no, this man we are talking about that we think is not in control, that there is one Buhari who died somewhere and there was a robot that they bought and that might be the person that we are looking about. So the question about which Buhari is this? Is it okay? We were looking at his ear, they were bringing that 1 year is different from the new. So we had that confusion because of inactivity, because of the fact that the expectation was so high and what we were seeing was below. So there was question about, is this the same Buhari that we're talking about? People were you thought we had relooting the loot under the Buhari administration. So we got to a point where people start asking themselves, is this what we expected? Unemployment, World Bank in 2021, June 14 said, Nigeria is experiencing the worst unemployment in the history of Nigeria during the Buhari first time in 2021.
That was in second term.
Okay, that was, sorry, 2021,
Yes.
that was the second time.
Yes.
So this was the kind of Buhari we had. He was having his friends, and there was this issue of those his appointees, politics of ethnicity. People were saying that, the NSA was from the north, the chief of army staff from the north, the chief of naval staff from the north, the general police was from the north. So we saw that it was like not only coming from the north, they were coming from his own angle. The issue of who was even in charge, there was this issue of Abakiare. So we had a system where we had a Buhari that is president, but we have the people who are calling the shot as different persons, different from Buhari. That is the kind of politics of Buhari that we saw.
The cabal.
Thank you. The issue of cabal, yes, it was in Buhari's time that we had the issue of cabal.
No, it emerged before his time.
But
I mean, there was a cabal under when Shehu Musa Yar'Adua took ill.
Okay,
and a cabal too.
Well, during Buhari's time became more that, cabal, you cannot even see him. So they said that when he was traveling, he could not transmit to his vice president. Those issues came up. It was when the president, you could remember when the president came up, that's when the NSA, the DSS man, Daura, was sacked. Because he felt that there was there's issues that he could not handle. But when Buhari was there, the politics was more of ethnicity, tribalism, and all of that. So those are the ingredients of Buhari politics when Buhari took over in 2015. So Buhari did not present to us like a Nigerian, like a military who talks about unity of government. So we saw a government that was tribalistic, that was nepotic, that was full of ethnicity. That is exactly the combination of Buhari administration during his politics during his administration.
Babatunde, we're going to take a short break now, but just have this in mind when we return so that you can address it. Do you think that he was one man, as strong as he was perceived, who was taken captive by a cabal, as you call it, or by a group of Nigerians? Let's hear some more voices from the streets of Nigeria on who the man Buhari meant to them.
During his 8 years presidency, Buhari tried his best to contend with the overwhelming problems. One of such is the security situation in the country, in Nigeria. The officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces, and please excuse me sort of making this because I think I belong to that group, where Buhari tried his best to contend with the overwhelming problems, and one of such is the security situation in Nigeria. And the officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the other security agencies must be commended.
President Buhari, there will be several more books written about him, several. We have read Working with Buhari. We will soon see Laughing with Buhari. And today we're seeing According to Buhari. I know that this particular occasion is one where we celebrate him and where we will also celebrate his tenure.
President Buhari's public life was marked not just by official positions, but by a strong connection with many Nigerians. His reputation for integrity, as attested to by General Gawan, who was his boss, discipline, and national commitment earned him lasting support, especially in the northern parts of the country and later the south, and gave him that nickname of Say My Gaskiya. This support was built on earned social trust rather than political expediency, and it gave his administration the room to pursue difficult reforms in areas like security and the economy with a degree of public backing that was unusual in Nigerian political history.
Former President Muhammadu Buhari is a man whose leadership stood on the pillars of integrity, accountability, prudence, as well as patriotism. Under his stewardship, Nigeria witnessed a decisive push to confront insecurity, a serious commitment to infrastructure renewal, a renewed focus on self-reliance, and a clear effort to sanitize the public sector. These themes resonate strongly in this book and must be appreciated in their full historic dimensions.
Human memory can be short. Therefore, a number of things need to be documented and must be documented. That is why it is needful to write books, particularly on a personality like President Buhari, who has served the country honestly and selflessly.
Right, those were the views of persons who knew him, who worked closely with him when he was either a military president or a democratically elected president in Nigeria. Babatunde, two words that came up from that was integrity and honesty. And those were views that were rolled over from his military days into his democratically elected presidential days. And I'm just wondering, if all of that was said about him and was all that everyone in Nigeria, most Nigerians thought of him as being honest and with a lot of integrity, what then happened during those 8 years? Was he taken captive? Could he have been taken captive?
Okay, well, there's this school of thoughts that even what Buhari did as a military head of state was actually inspired by Tunde Idiagbon.
His deputy.
His deputy, Tunde Idiagbon, who was then, is the twice second in command. And I think his performance in the 8 years as civilian president appears to have validated that view, that whatever he achieved, whatever image that was created as a civilian, as a military head of state, was not his doing, that it was Tunde Idiagbon that was behind it. In fact, some people went as far as saying that if Tunde Idiagbon has not been lured to Mecca, to Saudi Arabia, that the coup that removed him as a military head of state would not have happened. And if you look at his performance in the 8 years, it appears that view, that school of thought has been validated. Because if I'm honest, and my son is a known thief in the community, how does that validate my honesty and integrity? I'm honest, but my so-called wife is philandering all over the place, How does that validate my integrity? So I think we need to study who that man is again. And we need to start from the premise of that school of thought that said that whatever he achieved as a military head of state was because of a Tunde Idiagbon. So if his performance in the 8 years as civilian president is going to go by, we may need to look at it again. The so-called integrity, so-called honesty may have been a product of a Tunde Idiagbon standing firm and insisting that we should do the right thing in order to have a better country. Because, I mean, as Nigeria's presidency is one of the most powerful in the world. Not even the American president has as much power as Nigeria's president has. So, for you, as a man who the buck stops on his table, under your watch, people who were at home during Corona, and we saw how the amount of money they said they distributed to people, to kids that were at home, that they fed them, people who are not even going to school. That's just a tip of the iceberg. There are so many sleaze under his watch. So the question I want to therefore put back to you, Imoni, is where's the integrity and where's the honesty?
Let me ask Victor that question.
But that's a good question, and of course it questions the fact that, you know, Nigeria, we look, I think sometimes it seems that we are too used to this home video that we just look at, make believe. We believe that, you know, and I heard a lot of people saying that, oh, honesty, integrity, and I expected to see that because of his honesty, the corruption rate reduced during this period. I want to see that because of his honesty, the amount of sleaze we have within his ministers have reduced. I wanted to see that because of his honesty, his ministers were living above board. That he and the vice president did their code of conduct. They made it public, and the ministers also did that public. And when they left, oh, people came out and said, "Well, this is the best government." But as at the time, Buhari ministers left, we had so much corruption, even from the institutions themselves that are fighting corruption. We had cases of the looter looting the loot. We had cases of money being swallowed by snakes. It was during Buhari government we saw crocodiles swallowing money in JAM. It was during Buhari government that JAM was giving us 1 billion, but now after that we're now seeing that JAM can now give us. So a lot of issues came up during the Buhari government. And the question is, if Buhari is honest, how has it affected his government? How has it affected governance? What kind of impression? How has it impacted on the people? How has it influenced the economy? How has it influenced the private sector? But it was during his government that we saw that even the private sectors became more corrupt. So corruption became the order of the day. So how did he honestly play out?
Would you agree with those who say he was probably not in full charge of his administration?
Then the question I will not ask myself is where is that military background? Where is that military of the Buhari that made us to say, oh, I remember our current president in one of the campaigns saying that, oh, this is the general that can handle Nigeria. Oh, general that can take Nigeria out of the woods. So where was the general that it was even people, civilians, non-military persons that cabalized him? I mean, I don't understand. So it is a mixture. And I think that some of these people who are giving us history about Buhari or what they think about Buhari, they should come one-on-one to tell us what really happened, how they cannot. Buhari never sacked, I stand to be corrected, any of those ministers. Oh, yeah. Never sacked any of them to say, oh, I think you have not conducted yourself properly, or we've heard about the sleaze in your government. We never had that. And so the question you will not ask is, where is this thing about honesty? How these anti-corruption, you know, how were we able to, how was it able to, in short, the image that was painted about Buhari did not reflect in any part of his governance during his 8 years.
Okay, let me quickly push you a bit further on his politics. The expectation too was that when he came in, he was going to try and clean the audience table as far as the electoral system is concerned. You are in that space. What would you say he did to try to reform the electoral system in Nigeria during his time, his 8 years in office?
Yeah, I remember Buhari, of course, consented to the Electoral Act 2022.
Yes.
Yes. And he also, the Petroleum
Industry
Act, yes, he of course passed it into law and all of that. But in terms of his election, the electoral reform during Buhari haven't suffered a lot of electoral challenges or
misfortune
misfortune. Yeah,
2023,
I felt, yes,
and in 2011 he actually wept openly.
I felt that Buhari would have implemented the Justice Uwe's report. That was one of the best terms of independence of the INEC, disbundling of INEC, making sure that whoever appoints INEC should not be persons who will participate in the election, and other things. What we saw was that this, in short, there was a time that bill took, they would put in when the National Assembly proposed the bill and they bring it to the president will refuse assent. They will take it back again. And so it was back and forth. The issue of transmission of electronically transmission of results, it became an issue. At a point, they said that NCC said they cannot guarantee network. It was under the same Buhari. And so we then ask ourselves, you haven't been a victim, you haven't experienced this political misfortune. We felt that we would have seen a speedy passage, a very deep reform in the electoral process. But apart from even this passage, we saw a lot of provisions that as of today, we cannot implement. The question of waiting for 14 days within which INEC can review it, under the electoral act, those things were not part. We saw the issue of the tribunals delay. Even the one that conducted the one that decided this election, how free can we say was the Court of Appeal decision in that case between himself and the former President Atiku. So you could remember when he wanted to appoint the appointment of the CJ, how long it took. Then it was Tanko. The next person was to be the malingering that took place, because the impression we got was that he never allowed somebody that was not part of, that is the impression we had, was not part of his tribe, that did not come from his place, that maybe was not part of his own religious background and all of that. So if I see a President Buhari, each time I watch his speeches, the only thing I had was that, the feeling I have is a president who loves his people, a president who was sectional, a president who was nepotic, a president who was very good in protecting the people from his own sect, the president who came to empower the people from his own sect. That is the president. Did he do well in that respect? I can say 100% he did very well. But as president of Nigeria, he did very poorly.
Babatunde, what would you think were the inhibitions in carrying out far-reaching and thorough electoral reforms, and even political reforms?
Okay, let me start. I want to start from the integrity and honesty of President Buhari. You know, despite the fact that the whole world knew that Abacha looted us to our bone marrows, Buhari came out to tell the world that Abacha is not corrupt. I hope you recall that he said that. So if a man can look us in the eyes and tell us that a man that the world knew was corrupt and they were returning stolen loot and tell us that the man is not corrupt, so where's the integrity and honesty in such a person? Now, in terms of what are the reasons or inhibitions he had, first is there is no genuine political will, despite the fact that he suffered from that from that broken system. What happened was that immediately they got in, what they started singing is a Yoruba song that some people may not understand. Bamu bamu la yo, bamu bamu la yo, awo mo pe bi npo mo eni kookan, bamu bamu la yo. We're in charge.
Translation.
We are fine, we are very fine, we are comfortable. Whether you people are suffering is your problem. I'm the president now. Whether that system is broken or not, it's not my business. I'm in charge, and I want to use that broken system to continue to keep myself in office. And that was essentially what happened. That's why when they promise us reform before they get to power, tell me one of them that has implemented fundamental reforms. Before the same set of elements got into power, we know their position on federalism. We know their position on INEC. We know their position on police. We know their position on almost every issue, even including energy generation, including resource control. We know their position. They have been in power now for more than 2 years. Tell me what fundamental reforms they have undertaken in line with what they used to propose in the past, before they got to power. So these are individuals, these are elements who are part of the same ruling cabal, and once they get there, they want to continue to take advantage and enjoy the broken system that we have. So they are not genuine. The only time you see them mounting reform is when they are out of power. Once they get into power and they are comfortable, they want to continue to maintain the status quo. And that is right for the Nigerian people. And this is a direct appeal. We have been taking for a ride for too long. We cannot afford to continue to be made a fool of. We have seen their first 11, second 11, third 11. What change, what fundamental change have they brought to this country? We all know what the problem is. Like we used to say from my tradition, and like Marx himself said, he said, philosophers have interpreted the word. The point is to change it. Nigerians know what our problems are. The issue now is we need leaders who can be, who can be patriotic enough to say, okay, we are going to do this to make this system serve all of us. Is it not a shame? The same people who want resource control through federalism and not the rest will see what is happening under their watch. Go to Zamfara and not the rest. You see illegal mining. That is what is fueling banditry. Because people now have their own private army. They go, and it's not only in Zamfara and the northwest. You go to Osun State. Illegal gold mining has been going there forever. And we have had successive governments who are aware of this. But what has been done? Nothing. And that calls to question. Is it that we have internal sabotage? Is it that our so-called leaders who are supposed to protect us, whose mandate is the welfare and security of the people, that's the constitutional mandate they have, is it that they are the same person who are putting us in a state of insecurity? Are they the same ones undermining our welfare? I simply think political will is very important. Number two, the Nigerian people need to get organized. If you go to anywhere in the world, the reasons why change come is because the people are pushing. The welfare state in the West was because of the fear of socialism. That was why they were forced, the West was forced to institute a welfare system. Now, although they are even crawling back, they are taking some of those elements back. But it was not given on the basis of we love you, we like you, we cherish you. No, it was given on the basis of that people fought, they stood firm, and demanded, and they knew they themselves saw the danger of the revolution. So Nigerians, if we don't push, they will never bring about any meaningful reforms. And any reform they bring, if they mouth it, or they appear like they did with local government and all the rest, check well. It's not because they love us. Are you getting me? If we benefit from it, it's just collateral benefits. We are not the reason why they brought those reforms. Our people get organized. We need to push for change peacefully and ensure that we have a country that serves all of us.
It could not have all been negative during the Buhari era. At least mention one positive thing that you take away from his era.
Okay, I would say the enabling business environment was something I would say is a plus for him. And I think the VP, under the watch of the VP, they were able to at least bring about some reforms, because I was involved in the area of the ports. And I saw some changes, some efforts at bringing about changes, because Nigerian ports were so terrible that you have to pay a premium. If shipping companies are bringing things into Nigeria, you pay times 2 times 3 compared to when you go to Benin or Togo. So that was something I would say that the Presidential Enabling Business Initiative was something I would say yes. that was a plus.
And for you, Victor, what is that positive thing that you took away from his era, whether under the military or under the democratically elected
Now, for the one that affects
administration?
me directly, the only positive thing I could see in the area of Buhari is when I just oppose it with what I'm saying. During the 8 years of Buhari, the Naira, you know, ambulate between 250 to 400. 8 years. In 2 years of the current government, Naira moved from 800 to 1,500. So, which means under the Buhari era, there was stability in the. Whether that's the product of policy, is policy, I can't say, but facts have now revealed that during the 8 years of Buhari time, there was some resemblance of stability between the Naira and the dollar.
And we have also been told that so much was spent in stabilizing the currency at that time. All right, that's how far we can go today. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Babatunde Oluwajo, human rights activist and anti-corruption crusader, board member, Center for Transparency Advocacy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Victor Giwa, lawyer and electoral reforms advocate. He is the national coordinator, advocates for people's rights and justice. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And for you out there, thank you for investing your time with us. Join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. And remember that you can always go back to watch this again on our various social media platforms so that you can always catch up and, of course, make your contributions to our programming. Bye for now.